My guest today is an amazing singer, songwriter, musician, and member of the band Winger. Of course, I'd like to welcome Kip Winger to the show. Hey, Kip, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for being here. Got a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. The band has a new album, Better Days Comin, out April 22nd. So tell me about the record. Why'd you decide to make an album? How do you decide it's time? How did the songs come together?
You know what? 5 years has gone by between Karma, and I just have no idea how that happened. I really don't. I mean, it just seems like yesterday that we were working on that. So it was just basically, Rebs and White's brought to in Berkeley. He's Professor at Berkeley. John's in Fire and Starship. So it's kind of like, I try to pick a time mostly when Reb's available to do it, and then, we go from there. So I'm actually trying to pencil in a time we could actually get started on a new one now. So it's not that
Right.
time goes by, but.
Are you always writing on the side on your own, and then you sort of come to them with, here, I got like 20 songs, or do you start from scratch every time?
No. I'm not a believer in that, especially with Reb and me. We sit down and we write it on the spot. We wrote Karma in 10 days. So we're real fast when it comes to that. We know what we're looking for. And, we work really well together after this long of a time. So
Yeah.
I'm not a big believer in bringing old tunes into the mix with this band. I do it on my solo thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll collect songs over however many years, and then pick the best stuff and try to figure out what I'm saying.
Right. You went sort of for a kind of traditional Winger sound on a bunch of songs on this album. The first single, Rat Race, was really kind of old school Winger. Was that intentional?
Well, you know what? I think we've hit our stride. I think we know what the strengths of the band are. So for me, when I go into the studio, it's like we're a riff-oriented band. We come up with the best riffs we can, and then we go from there, section-wise. And it's kind of one riff to another riff, and then
Right.
kind of arranging it from there. And then I more and more I'm trying to feature the players in a way that shows their strength. I think Tin Soldier is a perfect example of that. Where we'll just take a section and let Rod rip it, over the solo or something. There is a basic formula that we follow in terms of just how we get off to a start. But once the song is born, all bets are off. It could go anyway, in any direction. But, with a band like this, there is a certain circumference that you want to abide by in terms of quality control, man. That's really
Right,
what it's all
right.
about. Editing yourself and knowing when your ideas are shit. Like using just the best ideas.
Then there is more of like I guess if we can use the word prog sounding track like Tin Soldier, which sort of kind of lends into how we can feature you on our site. I've always felt like you guys have had a little bit of that element on every album with like a couple of songs here or there where you showcase the soloing and a little longer tracks. Is that something you tried to do deliberately on each record or on this album as well? Or like you're saying, it just sort of happens?
Well, for a long time, I mean, when we came back with Winger 4, that was very prog-oriented. When we came back after that, I thought, well, shit, the future of this band is in prog because Rod's from the Dregs and Red's really a fusion guy, and I'm a 70s guy, so really that's really the answer. And I did Winger 4, and no one got it because it really, once you're known as one thing, it's very hard to break out of it, So I tried that, and it was for me and for a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there that are like, it's your best album, but it's very sophisticated, and a lot of the main group core fans didn't really get it.
Right.
So I had to face the fact that I originally put out a box of Cheerios, and then I tried to put out a box of Frosted Flakes, and they're like, So
Right.
There's always been elements of prog rock in our band. I think I just overdid it on Winger 4. So I pulled back and went to Karma and just went heavier and more straightforward, keeping the quality control of the riffs up as high as I could, and people loved it. So
Right.
on this album, I was like, well, let's try to reintroduce, some of the original love of the band, and we made a conscious effort to go, let's do a prog song, and let's not make it a long-form prog song. let's make it a 3-4 minute song that's got like, you know, the highest ingredients of what this stuff is. And that's kind of what Tin Soldier is all about. You'll notice, I mean, I don't know, did you ever hear of Discipline by King Crimson?
Sure. Yeah.
You know that record?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know that song Mate Kudasai, the ballad on that album? That's really what I was hearing on the verses when I sang Tin Soldier. That's where the melody came.
Okay. All right, cool. And the time signature on the chorus is really odd as well. It kind of takes you a second to figure out what's going on, which is pretty cool.
The keyboard part's in 4 and the guitar part's in 5.
Right.
So 5 over 4.
Yeah, so there you go. There's the there's the prog for everybody. I always felt like Pull, if I can go back a little bit, was sort of the most under-recognized album from that period for me. And I think a lot of people I know sort of feel that way. Is that a record you look upon as sort of, it just missed the decade there where it could have been really huge?
Yeah. I mean, if that came out second, I mean, it would have been much bigger. I mean, we came in at the tail end of the thing. I was in Alice Cooper when Bon Jovi and Rat and all those bands were massive, Def Leppard and all that.
Right.
And if I had been out at that time with my band, it would have been a whole different story. It was too long to get to it, and we came out at the very end, and the era was done, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
Which was, you know, we weren't actually part of that. We were kind of part of it, but not, because musically speaking, we were just one step to the left. So I didn't really get it. Like, I didn't understand, like, even what merchandising was. I was just like, I wanted to fucking do some cool music. That was my thing. But I didn't even know that selling the t-shirt was important. It didn't even dawn on me. So when we were like, well, what do we wear? It was like, well, we were, you know, when we wrote the first album, it was, MTV was huge. And we're looking at there going, oh, there's David Coverdale doing Still of the Night. And then there's, you know, Def Leppard doing, Pour Some Sugar on Me, and Bon Jovi's doing Living on a Prayer. So we were like, oh, let's put some of those clothes on and let's rock this shit. That's kind of how it all happened.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Funny that way.
And it was all very haphazard. It wasn't like, oh, we were one of these bands, let's go for this. You know?
Right.
We were like, let's do some cool songs. And, oh, what do we wear? I don't fucking know. What do you want to wear? I'm like, well, what are they doing? Let's do that. Okay, cool.
I know a lot of musician friends of mine that like even more of a complicated stuff like Dream Theater or, you know, whatever have you, have always appreciated what you guys have done and are fans. And musically, I think you guys were on another level from a lot of those bands from that day. So
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah.
I would love to have my band like do a double album of completely just the most out there shit that we could come up with. Because trust me, man, it would be way out there.
Mm-hmm.
We'd never allowed ourselves to do it because it would really be for guys like you. You know, I guess there would be. I don't know that a band called Winger would ever really capture the Dream Theater crowd, even though we could easily do that.
Right. Well, if you ever get bored and you got a few days, you know.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, I'm up for doing that shit just to do it, you know.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, I don't know really what's going to happen, but you know, we have a certain thing, and this album definitely embodies all aspects of what we've done up until now. And so this is a bit of a launch pad for us because it kind of has the whole. If you're wondering what the band sounds like, you could just buy this new record and go, oh, well, this is the thing.
Yeah, it really does sort of cover everything you guys have done, and the album's amazing. Again, comes out April 22nd. I want to touch on your solo stuff for a little bit because I'm just a huge fan of those few albums you did, especially This Conversation Feels Like a Dream, which if anybody has not heard that album, it's amazing and you have to go get it.
Thank you.
There's a couple of elements from that album and your soul stuff on this album as well. I felt like a lot of the 12-string guitar and some of the orchestra arrangements and stuff. Do you pull from that period now for the writing you're doing today?
I do, man. You know, nowadays, for a long time, it kind of went like this, like, oh, I really want to write classical music, so let me just try to do that in Rainbow and the Rose. And then I was like, finally, I figured out, like, I studied orchestra music and became an actual composer of orchestra music, and then I don't have to do it in Winger anymore to like prove that I can do that. I just keep them separately, and then the solo album stuff was like, okay, that's a separate thing. And so I've kind of gone about developing these three personalities and try to keep them separate. And finally, in the end, I thought, you know what, fuck this. This is this, Ever Wonder, because that could easily be on my solo record.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started writing it, and I was like, well, this could be on my solo record, but it also could be this, the band thing, because Headed for Heartbreak is just, if you produced it right, it could have been on the solo record too. So I just, I draw upon all those elements to bring to the band. In the band case, Rev's kind of sensitive about it, so not in a bad way. It's just like, look, let's keep this thing kind of encapsulated. But, every once in a while, my other styles bleed through into this thing. There's no question about it. Because, I'm arranging it all. I'm basically finishing off all the music. Rev comes in and we do the basic tracks and the riffs and stuff. And he leaves and I'm left to deal with it all. I write all the melodies, most of the lyrics. I produce it all, arrange it all, everything. So I'd be hard pressed not to have some of those elements and stuff.
Right.
And and they all feed each other. Certainly all the stuff I've studied in classical music lends itself very well to the rock thing, because I can see it all from another perspective and throw in, stuff that people wouldn't normally throw in.
One thing that I always liked about the solo albums is the production was very layered. You had probably 10 acoustic guitars over each other is what it sounded like, and 10 vocal tracks, and a song like Resurrection, which was off the second one, is so much stuff on there. That's more like 80 vocal tracks. There's a song on From the Moon to the Sun that's got 110 vocal tracks. I learned that from Mike Shipley, God rest his soul. I learned a lot of stuff from that guy, and some of it being to actually get the depth of a lot of this stuff, you have to multi-track it to a point that you can't even believe, and then all of a sudden the picture of the audio becomes this 3D picture, and the only way to do it is to just multi-track the fuck out of certain things. Wow. So you sang something 100 times differently and recorded it, and then that's all gets mixed in?
Oh yeah. Well, it's more, for example, if it's a 4-part harmony, I'll do each line 8 to 16 times on one note, and then I'll grab the third or whatever harmony I'm doing, and I'll do 8 to 16 tracks of that, and then then there's a whole way of panning comes into how you want to pan them and all that kind of stuff, and it easily knock off 100 tracks easily.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. That's dedication right there.
Even on the Winger stuff with certain backgrounds, I'll do, you do 8 of each part minimum to get that sound.
Right.
Minimum. Shit they did on Def Leppard that was 250 background vocal tracks on, hey, that's one thing, have 250 tracks, keep bouncing down, That's the only way to get the depth.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. Cool to find out. I wanted to ask you, I know we're running out of time and I have just so much to run by, but you worked with Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater on a few of his solo records, doing some singing, and there was a tribute album and stuff. How did you get involved with him and that whole thing?
He's been a buddy for years. I met Jordan since when he was way years ago, man, before when he was still working for Korg. Nobody knew who he was. He was a friend of Rod, and they did some stuff together. And Jordan had done a lot of stuff in the studio with different people, and we've been talking about doing something. Me and Rod and Jordan have been talking about doing an ELP kind of thing for years, and we just haven't figured out the time slot. And so we've been buds, he just said, hey, will you sing on my shit? And I'm like, of course, So, I'm really proud of the stuff we did on the remake of the Gentle Giant thing. That was badass. And I was so happy that he asked me to do that, because I was a huge fan of that record.
To the average, Prog fan or whatever, your name doesn't come up. But when you look at an album like that, it's Jordan Rudess, first of all, from Dream Theater, and the other singers are on there, like Neil Morris and Steve Wilson and all these Prog guys, and then you're in there. Hey, man, I got seniority. I'm older than all those motherfuckers. I grew up with the 70s, okay? That's great. That's great, man. What goes into an album these days for you, sort of in your head, in terms of now you don't have, well, no one really has the pressure of MTV or radio, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Does it free you? You look at it differently now?
I approach everything the same. It's all still high level, and I'm still trying to, the one thing about working for a label back in the days, the bar was really high. They're like, no, sorry, you don't have any hits, and this, this sucks and that sucks. We were never told what to do. But I always keep the old German there beating me in the head with a fucking hammer going, this sucks, dude. You got to do better than this. It's not good enough. And there's always a voice in me going, is this the best thing I can come up with? Could this be better? And that's, that is bled over from the old days of the big record companies just going, it ain't good enough. It ain't good enough. I mean, I delivered Full, and I didn't have Down Incognito on Full. On Doug Morris, I had Spell I'm Under, which I thought was a huge hit. He's like, you don't have a hit yet, so go back. And I went back and wrote Down Incognito. So, what I do is I keep that guy in my head for myself now.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I think, the pressure's still on. I mean, it's still on to be good because, there's more shit out there to compete with now. Everybody and their brother's coming up with a record and sticking it on YouTube. And you gotta fucking, there's a lot of good shit out there now because people can promote themselves, and then all the talent that would have never been discovered before is all out there. I think the pressure's on now more than ever to fucking keep the bar up there.
What bands are you into these days?
Man, I don't know. People ask me that, and I listen to stuff and I hear, wow, that's good. Foo Fighters always come up with something consistently cool. I like some of the new Dream Theater, some of the new drummers. I saw Winery Dogs on the cruise. That was good shit. And I don't listen a lot to other stuff because I'm always writing stuff. I like listen to a lot of classical music too. So, the guy I study with, Richard Daniel, I listen to a lot of his music right now because I'm writing a new piece for Jake Shimabukuro, and just kind of listening to that. And Jake, have you heard of any?
No.
He's like the virtuoso ukulele player. Most of his dad.
No, I'll check that out.
I'm writing a piece right now for orchestra, but yeah, I just, bands, there's a lot of bands, I don't know, I'm kind of, sorry if I sound like Sarah Palin, like, oh yeah, I look at all the magazines, they're all good. I don't mean it like that, I just, if it's good and it catches my ear, but when people ask me that kind of shit, my mind basically goes blank.
I'm assuming you guys are planning a tour for the new record, is that in the works?
Yeah, man, we're booked. If you look at it, just go to our site and you'll see the dates. They're popping up every now. Nowadays, it's not like proper touring. You just we go out every weekend and then fill in the weekdays when we can, basically. So it's not like hopping a tour bus like the old days, unless it's like the Model Cruise tour. But unfortunately, we're not on that. So we're booked through the end of the year, so we'll be around basically everywhere that we can be.
Very cool, man. Hopefully you guys will make it down to Florida so we can go check you guys out.
We're definitely talking about Florida dates right now.
You guys have played here before, though. I saw, was it for Karma or it might have been for Winger 4? I'm not, but definitely saw you guys play, and it was as good as always. So
I appreciate that.
Like I said, I'm a huge fan, and I'm just thrilled to speak with you, man. So good luck with the new record. I love it. I know your fans will love it, and hopefully we'll see you around down here.
Okay, thanks for your time. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Take it easy. Thanks to Kip for the interview. We're going to close with a track off of Better Days Comin, the song Tin Soldier. For more information and upcoming interviews, please check theprogreport.com. Thanks.
It's all the same, and suddenly